Welcome to the Orange Pew. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Pew.
This is inaugural.
A brand new podcast.
Brand new.
Of CLA and its networks with Pastor Derrick. That's me. And today,
yes,
dragged into studio,
hello,
is Doug Frederick.
Almost literally dragged, but happy to be here.
Do you remember when we did these funny little things during COVID on Facebook?
Oh my gosh, Derrick. Like, that's March 2020.
Was that when it was?
Yeah, it felt like a long time ago. Like,
it is a long time ago.
It is.
We're in 2024. So, people, they listen, they watch, they put up those little
hearts.
Yep, and thumbs up,
love
and
signs,
stuff, and interacted. And so now it's a whole new era of podcasts. And you might be asking, why do we call it From the Orange Pew? And we are actually, for those that are listening and not watching, we're actually sitting on two orange pews.
And massively not comfortable. Because they're like 40 years old.
They're surprisingly uncomfortable. And we're going to have to fix that as the months go along. But these come out of the original CLA Church in like 1978.
I would say that Brent Cantillon has one of these in his house somewhere in his basement.
This was before him. So Leroy Lebec walked people down the street, down 56, to this new property filled with faith, and they walked into a building that had orange pews.
Who picked orange?
Well, it was the 70s. It was the late 70s, and so, people were driving cars that were 1,400 feet long, gas guzzlers, and orange was in.
Green and velvet and orange.
Yeah.
So, Derrick, let me ask you the question. What do you want to see from this podcast? What's the impetus?
So there's two things here. This is the introduction, by the way. This is just the introduction.
Welcome.
The next podcast that we're going to do is with a guy by the name of Wayne Hilsden.
Oh, great.
He's coming from Israel.
Yep. And
there's just a little bit in the news right now.
Tons.
About Israel. So we're going to interview guests. CLA, so it's a podcast for CLA and its network. Okay?
So primarily for the 3,000 people,
the
3,000
people who are part of CLA. So 3 campuses, Recovery Church, our staff, our people, those online, our sphere of influence. But then when we say network, we're talking about we belong to a network, the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. It's like 300,000 people from C to C to C. And so there are pastors, there are leaders, there are students, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. There are people in other assemblies that are a lot like us. They kind of got our DNA in the network, and they might be interested. Like, for example, when we bring in Wayne, okay? So Wayne and Ann Hilsden are like 70 years old, and they're still doing ministry, but like 40 years ago, they were in Ontario, and they're part of this network.
Well, I can't wait to interview him.
Yeah, so there are people like in Nova Scotia. Hello, Kevin and Don.
Mike Miller, check.
There are people that might want to hear from someone like that. And so I think that's the network piece. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay?
Cool. Yeah.
So if this is
I'm an open book.
If this is a podcast for CLA and its network, you represent an interesting part of the network. The interesting part of the network is the next gen. So millennials, Gen Z, Alpha generation. You're teaching pastoral theology at Summit. Look at this. For those that I got
Good job, Derrick.
I got my Summit Pacific.
I wish I had a CLA jacket on, but all I have is the Her mug. Debbie might be happy.
Okay, there's
with
a
that.
call out.
Yeah. There you go,
I
Debbie.
said, Doug, you should have the other CLA mug, but he picked the Her mug. He's very secure in his masculinity.
I think I'm doing okay.
So Doug teaches at this college. He teaches people in pastoral theology, teaches next generation, young men, young women. And so I'm expecting, Doug, that you're coming representing them with their questions. So if you have Doug Frederick is your professor. He might be asking you questions to feed us in this podcast.
And we also have, just beyond Summit, there's great connections with young adult ministries out of CLA, we have some of the greatest youth pastors and young adult guy.
Absolutely. Right, so let me ask you.
Yeah.
Next gen, those that you're rubbing shoulders with every day. So what are their questions? What's important to them? Because we want to represent them. They need to be the next British Columbia and Yukon district superintendent. They need to be the next PAOC superintendent elected in Niagara Falls. So what are they asking?
I think they want a voice, Derrick, most of all. Like I think if you have a youth pastor or a young adult pastor on your staff, they don't want to be siloed to just do that job. They actually want some kind of involvement in the direction of where the church is going. Because I think they have their ear to the ground. Millennials are important. They know. We have this saying that they're the church of, they're not tomorrow, they're today. They know that they're part of the church today. And so I think millennials, and you'll see this in churches represented even in our province, that young adult pastors or youth pastors, they want connection. They want to be part of the solutions to having a really good, healthy church. I think that's important to them. But I get to see it firsthand, like every week. And I am so encouraged, Derrick, by young adults. So of various ages, 19 to 26, they love church. They want healthy church. Statistics say that 1 in 5 pastors will make it to like a convergent stage where it's like you're in your, like, if we're talking about Wayne coming to do a podcast, where you're 70 or 80 years old and you've led good churches, you love your spouse, husband or wife, haven't made screwed up church, but they want longevity and they want to do a good job in the church. And every week I come out of Summit, I'm like, there is hope for the church.
That's why you're going to be my co-leader. I want you coming out of the classroom saying, I just had a discussion with students and they're wondering about this. Because in a post-denominational Canada, like why join a church that's connected to a denomination when denominationalism's dead? So, I think that's
increasingly so.
That's why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you can join me as often as possible. And when you're not able to join me, then we'll pull on someone else, like, say, Debbie Ton.
Great voices. There's great voices that can speak into health of the church. There's no doubt about it.
So that's the goal is to go back to the Orange Pew. We've got history here. CLA's 85 years young. We've got some history. We're pulling on our church, our staff. It's for our church. It's for our staff, but it's bigger than that. And the network is significant, and there's always change coming. So that's the why. I also want to say right from the beginning that this whole thing is to do interviews. I'm going to ask you in a sec, because you listen to a lot of podcasts. Like, why do you listen to podcasts? What do you get out of them? But we're not here to talk. We're here to listen. We're here to learn. We're here to interview people. So this is an interview-based podcast. There are people that come to CLA or come to British Columbia, and they're interesting. They got interesting stories. Sometimes these people will be from within our congregation.
Right.
They'll have gone through trauma. I've already got some people in mind, and to be able to talk to them about going through that and what do we learn from them.
Loss, death, grief.
Yeah, lots of things.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Like real issues.
Uh-huh.
Love it.
And the other thing is that we have guests coming sometimes, like in the month of February, CLA is hosting this global awareness and missions emphasis, and so we're paying some big bucks flying 3 families into Vancouver from Jerusalem. So why not interview them? Do in the podcast, do what you can't maybe do on a Sunday morning.
Boy, there will be questions around that for sure, because of what's in the news.
Sure,
look forward to
with
that.
them.
Mm-hmm,
Absolutely.
With them.
Well, and one of the couples is coming out of Russia.
Oh,
and
so it's a double,
like
Russia and Israel.
Yeah, I'm going to ask them what on
milieu.
earth is going on in Russia. So, you get to ask questions, and I just want to be authentic. I think that's a value of our podcast. I think being able to be clear is a value on our podcast. And I think I want to be able to bring something of value.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your students, our congregation, and the pastor in Tuktoyaktuk, now that's not fake. I know Pastor Emmanuel in Tuktoyaktuk. So if he can walk away with something beneficial from one of our podcasts, maybe
So like even that would be a good Zoom interview.
Well, maybe we don't Zoom. Maybe we bring him in. He is a famous polar bear hunter. Front page of the New York Times.
New York Times.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
He was telling me that he got interviewed by these people from the United States, and I didn't even know what he was talking about. Then he goes into some back room, pulls out a newspaper, comes and puts it on the table. It's the New York Times.
That's crazy.
I'm like,
That's awesome.
Emmanuel, this is like, do you know who interviewed you?
Yeah.
Anyway, so if pastors can walk away with a little encouragement, a little perspective, like if we can all walk away from our interview with Wayne with a little bit of perspective, maybe challenged.
I'm sure it's going to be challenge is good.
Challenge is good.
Without a doubt.
So that's why. Now, you unlike me, you listen to a lot of podcasts. Well, probably because you drive an hour there and an hour back.
I commute every day. So it's perfect time.
So what's in a podcast for you? Why is it important? What does it do for you?
I think the baseline, Derrick, is I think we want to be learners. We want to be, what's the word? Mathete.
Mathetes.
Mathetes
Disciple.
is a
Learner.
disciple and a learner.
Yeah.
And I would say that most of Christendom in our time right now, 2024, we have no excuse to grow spiritually. Like with the technology.
You mean not to grow?
Not to grow.
Yeah.
With the technology that we have on our phones. Like, I listen to maybe about 10 or 15 different podcasts.
What's your favorite podcast?
I like Timothy Gombis. His podcast is really good. The Holy Post is good. Press and Sprinkle is really good. And it's interview based.
No, Jason Ballard's going to be very upset that you
Jason
didn't mention.
Ballard
Yeah.
is so awesome.
That's the one
We'll have to get Jason into here too.
Sure.
I don't know if we have a hook with that.
I really don't listen to a lot of podcasts. So I read books.
CCLN is excellent, Derrick.
Yeah, that's one that I actually have listened to. I'm very proud of Jason and Jeremy. In fact, I'd like to bring the boys in and talk about how on earth do you plant a church in a secular city like Vancouver?
Very difficult.
So, there's lots of good topics.
But I think the baseline is you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to expand your thinking, you want to have different voices. We shouldn't be afraid of learning or have different voices, even outside of our fellowship. I think it's very important. We need to grow.
Okay, let's talk about the fellowship for a minute.
Sure.
Fellowship, weird word unless you read Tolkien. Why is it important? You teach now, most Bible colleges closed down. But we actually are teaching.
Or closing down.
But we support, like this church, this district pours a lot of money into a denominational Bible college. But so,
I could add a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. So why? Why is being a part of a denomination, why is being part of a fellowship important to you? And why should those students that you're teaching be a part of something?
It's about accountability and maintaining character. Like sometimes we use the word call, and this might be open for discussion, but pastors will use the word call really too loosely because that's not the basis of what we do as pastors. The basis is not the call. And if you look in the New Testament, call is mostly for holiness and salvation. There are a few scriptures, but you don't want to base a theology around a few scriptures. But I think our foundation is character. And I'm part of a fellowship that keeps me accountable to my work here, my theology, my integrity. So like in our fellowship, okay, so you're my pastor here in this context. But then we both have, and you keep me accountable, but also you are accountable to outside a district team, a district superintendent. So I think fellowship, we even in the environment that we have today, with across North America, many people who are stumbling, lone rangers, failing.
Yeah.
I think we need an increased level of accountability. I'll have questions for her.
When we did Facebook, that was like the one that blew up, So, anyways,
she should be your co-host.
She maybe she will one week.
She's just the unofficial co-host.
So we teach this course here at CLA called Discovery, and we bring all these people together. And one of the things we talk about is, why is CLA a part of a fellowship, and why would the fellowship be invited to the Orange Pew?
Yeah,
and it's because it's because of what you said.
Yeah,
but it's because we can do more together. This is a Ken Russell line: more together than separate. Like the Bible college.
He has perfect hair.
Oh, I'm gonna get him on here one day.
Yeah. Oh,
That's why. I mean, most people will listen to the podcast on Apple or Spotify. They'll just be listening to it while they run or walk or drive a car. But some people will actually be watching these little cameras on YouTube. And so when Ken Russell comes on, they'll be impressed with his Pakistani look. It's amazing. But
I've got perfectly no hair. He's got pristine hair.
Yeah, you're shiny.
I think he's like number 589.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have them on.
Anyways.
So, but we're better. We do things better together, like the Bible college.
Yep.
And I remember pastoring a church. So the average size church in Canada is like 125 people. 125 people. So you can be overwhelmed and thinking, what can we do globally with 125 people with, maybe $10,000 a year given to missions? Well, if you're one of 1,000 churches and you're all doing something together through, say, Imagine Thailand, shout out to Zach Wiley. We've got Rev Team coming your way in March.
Yep.
Then you're actually feeling like you can do something. So I think you can do something in a bigger group.
And it's good for CLA to know that we're not just
lone
like
rangers.
Independent charismatic Pentecostal church.
Absolutely. Because
there's 100 and how many in the province? 120 churches?
200.
200 and 1,200 across Canada?
Yeah, something like that. Including the Pentecostal Assemblies of Newfoundland. Shout out to Newfoundland. No, if you get in trouble as a church, to be able to call someone and explain the law, like what, someone lays a lawsuit on you and you're in Quesnel, you're not alone. You pick up the phone, you say, hey, Darwin, district office, I just got sued. Help me. And they will.
And maybe some of the listeners, like CLA people on this first episode, would think, our church is actually getting sued? And it is amazing how many pastors, how many churches
or the BC
go to
Human
litigation
Rights
or
Tribunal.
Human Rights.
So anyways, you get help. And I think especially young, and because you're sending every year young ministers, women, men. So you're out there on your own and you're like, what the flip? I just got sued. And then someone comes in from the district and says, just calm down. We've got a lawyer. This isn't our first rodeo. We're going to walk you through this. So being a part of something gives you courage, gives you, strength, gives you accountability. Plus there's things that they make you do that you might not want to do. And I'm talking about the annual ALR that they do this form. Anyways,
the lead pastor, you have to fill that.
Oh,
out,
it's
right?
terrible.
Isn't that your job?
It's terrible.
How many people have got saved? And how many people are filled with the Holy Spirit?
How many people baptized? Yeah, ACLR or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not talking about that. For 35 years, I've had a board. Like I've worked in churches with boards. They're elected or appointed or whatever, but they're a board. They're not me. They're not my friends. They're not my family. They're people with spiritual gifts and vision and maybe a different opinion than me. Some churches don't have that. And that makes them poor.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Question about what do you want to see happen from this podcast on the Red Pew? Like the heart of
Orange. It's orange.
I just went colorblind. It's an orange pew.
It's look at your Orange Pew. He got the name.
I don't know why I thought
he got
red.
the name wrong.
I don't know why I
on
thought
our
red.
first-
It's the first introductory.
Yeah.
I'll get it. We'll get tattoos or something. Orange pew. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want to see happen from this?
I think I want to be, with our own people, I want to be able to give more room for our stories and go deeper in some interviews with maybe our guests and maybe even explain. So when I'm walking around the Langley campus and you attend CLA Langley, you can say, Pastor, do a podcast on this. Or if I'm in Maple Ridge or Souk, they say, Pastor, do a podcast on this. So we're actually addressing questions that they're interested in, taking some stuff to a deeper level for them, for their benefit. And then, as I said, for the network, which we've talked quite a bit about, I want to be able to encourage and give some feedback and introduce people to people that maybe they don't know. And
It's very good, Derrick.
I think it'll be fun.
It's a good experiment. Let's do it.
Yeah. So the goal is to do this, I think initially anyways, like once a month, roll this out and see how it goes. Or more. We could do whatever we want.
Then let's do it.
This is
Let's
our
do
studio.
Then let's do that.
So we can do whatever we want. But the reality is that I think it's a good way to talk to people.
Love it.
Don't you?
Let's move ahead.
So
So our first guest that's coming is Wayne Hilston.
yeah, and then right after that, see, because we're bringing these people in from Israel, so there's a guy named Michael and his wife Vanessa. They're coming in from Israel. They've started this new ministry called Firm, which is sort of like the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada for Israel. And Michael's a young leader, and really
He'll have something to say.
Yep. And you'll have questions for him, I'm sure. And if you can be here, and if not, Sarah Lee, if not, Debbie, someone will be co-hosting with me. And then after that, we've got this couple coming that are now in Israel, but they were in Russia. But I want to also say, not you, just you, but other people, you got ideas for guests that you would like to hear their story, you'd like to hear them interviewed because they're part of our church, our network, tell us. And we will go out and try to find them. And they'll have to do it for free because we have zero budget for this. So maybe we'll have to come up with a chocolate bar or something as their gift. And but
Recovery Church sticker.
Is that what you give?
That's what we give to newcomers.
I thought you gave chocolate bars.
Chocolate bar and a sticker. Yeah.
A recovery sticker. I've never gotten a recovery sticker.
Put it on your Bible.
Oh. Yeah, so we'll do something like that.
So
It'll be fun.
Welcome to the Orange Pew.
Welcome
CLA and
to
network
the
and
Orange
beyond.
Pew. Yeah. And we hope to see you next time for not our introduction, but our first real podcast.
I got questions for Wayne.
I'm sure that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll answer them with
grace
and truth.
It's good.
Because that's what Jesus does.
Join us. Come back.
Okay, everyone.
Follow us.
That's it. That's the
Subscribe,
introduction.
follow, send money.
So, signing off.
Send an
from
offering.
The CLA studio. Come join us for a brand new experiment. That's going to be a lot of fun.
This is Derrick Hamre and Doug Frederick. We love you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Orange Pew. To stay up to date, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube Podcasts. We'll see you next time.